Hey, soy Isra García. Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything Podcast Series, el podcast de la reinvención, el podcast de la disrupción, el podcast de la liga del 1%, el podcast que hace accesible lo inaccesible, que destroza lo perfecto y habilita lo imposible, que hace en la práctica posible lo que en la teoría parecía imposible, con entrevistas a los más grandes disruptores, líderes y maestros mundiales, puenteando y uniendo sabiduría ancestral y sabiduría moderna, uniendo lo holístico con lo científico, lo experimental con lo teórico. Estás en el lugar adecuado para decodificar el potencial humano y lo que significa vivir una vida extraordinaria. Te espero y vamos al episodio. No olvides suscribirte, marcar la casilla de las notificaciones, darle un like para llegar a alguien más, decirnos a quién quieres que entrevistemos o qué quieres que tratemos en los siguientes episodios en los comentarios y no olvides hacer lo que haces naturalmente, sobresalir de ti mismo. Vamos a ello.
Reinvent yourself. Welcome to the Disrupt Everything podcast series with Isra Garcia. The opportunity to live in a permanent state of reinvention and change as change happens. A space for human potential, action, holistic high performance, ultra productivity, experimental lifestyle, unstoppable attitude, disruptive mindset, coaching and self-discipline as a lifestyle, modern stoicism, impact marketing, connected leadership, and whatever comes next.
Welcome to the Disrupt Everything podcast series. I'm here in Psychedelic Science 2023 with Ben Halper, coordinator and facilitator of Sanctuary and Zendo Project. I was very eager and very excited to talk about him, with him and about him, because the work they do on psychedelics leads and also leads the foundation for good practices and bad practices, and also for harm reduction in many festivals that are adopted their practices, like burning and big festivals where people go into this altered state of consciousness. But we need to take care of it. We need to be mindful, be careful, treat ourselves with respect, but also treat others with respect, which, you know, in this environment which is open, can be very challenging and demanding. As this podcast is about disruption, about disruptors, about people that change and challenge the status quo and create a new status quo. Zendo Project is doing it. MAPS is doing it. The 13,000 people that is here attending it, Psychedelic Science, is doing it too. So we dissect, deconstruct, and facilitate what these disruptors and this disruption that is created brings and give it to us. So today I have the pleasure to interview Ben Halper for Disrupt Everything podcast series. Ben,
thank you so much for having me, Isra. Appreciate
welcome to be here.
Welcome to Disrupt Everything podcast series with Isra Garcia, an uncategorizable space for uncategorizable people. Reinvent yourself.
How did you end up in working with MAPS and in Zendo, if you can tell us more about what Zendo does and what's the mission and your mission?
Sure, yeah. I started getting into this work about 10 years ago. I was living on the East Coast of the United States, in New York City, and I was going to events, going to festivals, going to music parties, what have you, and would find myself in the situation where I was helping somebody who's having a challenging experience, most oftenly on psychedelics. And what I quickly learned, that there was no specific place or a safe space at these events for somebody who was having a challenging experience to go to and to spend time and to sit with somebody who could help hold that experience and hold them as that experience unfolded. And so this was, again, about 10 years ago. I reached out to the Zendo Project. I had heard about the Zendo Project, and I asked if they would come to New York City and do a training so that I could then approach these festivals and ask them if I could set up a safe space, set up a sanctuary space as somebody who was Zendo trained. So we did that. We had a public training at the New School in New York City, and from that point, I just kind of was on the trail with the Zendo Project. attending festivals, mostly United States. I went to Envision in Costa Rica for a few years, and I've been doing that ever since. Now I'm the event services manager for the Zendo Project, coordinating the events that we do worldwide. We've recently become our own nonprofit, so we were a project of MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, and we've transitioned into now our own nonprofit, and we're looking at what our future holds. What we do is we provide educations, we provide workshops and trainings in how somebody can be a peer support for somebody having a psychedelic experience. So this means being with somebody that will be a safe space and a safe person to be present and allow for whatever needs to unfold. We are based on 4 principles of harm reduction, which are, first, what I've said already a few times, safe space is both creating the physical safe space, the place that somebody can go at an event that they can, have some quiet, have somewhere comfortable to be, destimulated away from the noise of the general environment and all the people. And then safe space is also a way of being. So our volunteers, our sitters, embody a safe space. So they are somebody who can be with an individual in a psychedelic experience, or really any challenging or overwhelming experience that somebody might have at an event, even if it's not substance related. We're here to help support that and be that safe space to allow that experience to unfold. Next is one of our second principles is sitting and not guiding. So it's an idea of we are here to be with somebody and allow their experience to unfold in the way that it needs to move through. And we're not here to provide any type of therapy, any type of modalities other than being a grounded, meditative, and loving presence. And that grounded, meditative presence is the anchor that then somebody can kind of be with as their experience unfolds as it naturally wants to, and often can turn into a major healing experience for somebody. Our third tenet is challenging is not necessarily bad. So if somebody is experiencing a big experience and it's having a hard time with it, oftentimes we understand that is exactly where they need to be in their healing process. And so providing that safe space and having that sitting presence allows that person to be with that challenge and to move through it so that they can get to a place of greater wholeness and greater healing. And so, and then our fourth principle is talking through and not down. And it's a similar idea, but we're there for somebody's experience to work through from wherever it needs to go. But there's a kind of an old idea when somebody is in a challenging psychedelic experience, that an idea of talking down the experience. And our belief is that allowing it to be moved through to its fullness, to its completion, is what will bring the greatest benefit to that person in that experience.
I'm curious to know how these 4 principles have impacted in the festivals, in the people around, the people that follow them in challenging psychedelic experiences.
Yeah, great question. So we see that these ethos, these tenets, these principles that we have are now becoming just part of the psychedelic culture. So as you mentioned in the introduction, we've been out across the world at Africa Burn, at Boom Festival, and these ideas, these principles are spreading into the global community, helping people understand that there is a certain way that you can be with somebody when they're in a psychedelic state that is really conducive to the most benefit and the most healing for that person.
It's even helpful. I know that you don't have to, but eventually, and is an underground going on, which that can be, don't do it, but at least if you're gonna do it, we cannot do anything to stop it. Just follow this when you're gonna take care of somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
Which also is a good 4 principles outside psychedelics too, for life itself.
Absolutely right. Yeah, we see that the people that volunteer with us end up going out into their communities and teaching their community members these same ideas, and then they're going and holding space for their friends who are doing psychedelics. Our belief is that over 90% of psychedelic experiences happen outside of the medical or clinical setting.
Can you repeat?
Now, over 90% of psychedelic usage today is happening, what you might call recreationally or even ceremonially, but it's not in a research study, it's not in a lab, or it's not in some, medical context. And so that means it's happening without a trained mental health practitioner or a therapist. It's happening in our communities. That's where psychedelics are mostly being used. And so these principles are a way that all of us can be a grounded and meditative presence to be with each other in our psychedelic experiences to help those experiences unfold.
How working 7 years already has shaped the person you are?
Oh, wow. It's made me who I am, literally. What I like to say is that I had heard the concept of a best self, be your best self. And prior to finding the Zendo Project, I didn't know what that actually meant for me. I was looking for it. I was trying to find my way in the world and how to just be what was my best self. I really didn't have an idea. And then I was very much called to this work when I found it and have discovered what I feel is my path. And a lot of that is because, this is what I say a lot, is this work breaks my heart every single event, every single day, and every single shift. For all the grief, all the transformation, all the beauty, all the healing, all of it, all of that intense human experience.
I'm ghost-bumping.
It breaks my heart, and it allows me to live my life open-heartedly because my heart is broken by this work in a way that just feels like it serves me and serves my family and serves my community.
I can see you even moved right now the way you speak right now, right?
Yeah.
So this leads me to a question, which is, if you were about to put your life in a timeline, what will be your top milestones so far?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I would say, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up ultra-Orthodox Jewish, so a very strict religious upbringing. And I had my first psychedelic experience when I was 20 years old. And, I didn't have any major, spiritual revelations. It was just a fun time with friends. But after that, I noticed that the structures in my mind that were boundaries and containers that I didn't even know existed became more obvious to me, and I realized that I had choices around those things. And so I was able to start to determine my own path and see that I can find my way to spirituality, find my way back to God. And that, I would say, a person's first psychedelic experience is often a pretty monumental moment. So that was definitely a huge moment for me. Meeting my wife, I've been with my wife now for 10 years. We've been married for 5 years. We just had a beautiful,
Congrats.
Thank you. Just had a beautiful baby girl. Having a partner who supports me and I support her on our paths as individuals in our healing journeys and in our paths of service as individuals and together has really been the foundation that has allowed me to do this work, go out into the field, go to these events, and know that I have that grounded center for myself when I return home.
When dealing with people, when dealing in these situations, when people come into altered states of consciousness, and that's very delicate. Apart of these four big principles, what has proven useful and essential for you in this scenario, in this human interaction at the end?
Breath is first, is coming back to my breath. So doing this work, it's inevitable that my nervous system will be activated, that my emotions will be activated, and using my breath to re-find my center when I do get moved from my center and I'm not in that grounded and meditative place, and also allowing whatever experience I am having in that moment to be. So if I'm having a strong emotional response to something that's in front of me, that's great. I will allow myself to be in that space. If I'm having something makes me uncomfortable when I'm holding space, I allow that, that's okay. And I can sit with my experience as I'm allowing and holding the experience of somebody else.
have any particular kind of meditation practice or process to breathe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is really more what I do in my daily practice that allows me to have the foundation to do this work. Is, I live on a mountain, and being grounded, feeling my energy being stabilized in Pachamama, in the earth, is something that, because it's a daily practice for me, I can carry with me when I'm in a crazy festival environment and still maintain my groundedness and my connection to the earth. I literally will breathe up energy from the earth into my heart space, exhale it out into the universe, breathe in from the universe into my heart space, and exhale it back down into the earth. And so these are one of my pranayamas, one of my breathing practices that really helps me to have my feet on the ground and be able to open my heart to the stars.
Which makes the chi flow.
Yeah.
Right? Because it comes from the earth.
Yep.
Tell us a weird habit about yourself.
Say it again.
A weird habit.
A weird habit about myself.
Weird, yeah.
Oh yeah, great question. I don't know if this is weird, it can look weird, but I will shake a lot, physically shake. So if I have a nervous system activation, whether it's doing this work or just in my life, I have such a practice of allowing what needs to flow that my body will shake. And sometimes I'll do it intentionally, being like, I have energy, I gotta move, and I'll shake my whole body out, which is something that you can see in nature that animals do when a deer is getting chased by a predator. When it gets away, it shakes its whole body.
How did you learn that? Is it
just kind of something I learned naturally, I think.
Could be looking at also the animals, or
it
you
could
were
have been
realizing that?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not sure what came first, but I definitely have been doing that for a long time. And it also applies to my own medicine practice. When I'm in a medicine journey, if I feel energy needs to move, I will allow it, and I will, if my legs need to shake, if my arms need to shake, whatever it may be, I can allow my body to move that energy. And at times I will take my attention back to my center to see if I can be in a strong place and sit more upright and see, actually, I have a choice here. How do I want to feel this energy right now? Do I want to let it go, or do I want to hold it in and see what that energy does to me? And so both of those are available to me, and I have both of those practices.
When you go into a psychedelic space for yourself, how the work with Zendo influence your experience? Because I won't say we are biased, but we are.
Yeah.
But how you work with, sometimes that could be a big influence, and it changes things. So how do you picture yourself in that?
Yeah, very much so. The principle that most applies to how I move through my own psychedelic experiences is that challenging is not necessarily bad. So if I am having I'm really like in my work, I'm deep in my shadow when I'm in a psychedelic journey, like I feel deep in my core that I am safe, and this is where I need to be, and I want to be there. And that isn't always the case. There are times that I can be having a really challenging experience on a psychedelic, and I'm like, wow, I don't know if I can sit with this experience. This is too much. But that practice of that orientation of that challenging isn't bad, and that there's nothing wrong, and that oftentimes the greatest growth is in that challenge, brings me back and allows me to reground myself in myself and say, I can do this. I will be with this experience. I will not try and avoid it, and allow myself to grow from it.
Let me pause for a second, saying that this is a sneak preview, because we're gonna get deep in a few months. We're gonna go deep delve with Ben in a more profound and long podcast where we can, get into details. But now I'm pretty amazed of, how much we can cover in so little when you go and you keep flowing, right? And I get that, like, from the ceremony, from the grounding, you look like somebody that is following the principles of nature, is connecting, and it pop up like you have any I won't say secret, but I won't say sacred, but no secret, any sacred or any personal ritual?
Yeah, the thing that has been most calling to me lately is prayer, and prayer through song. and how that is a spiritual technology that just in my life and definitely in ceremony and in the medicine space allows me to connect with spirit, with nature, with the earth, with myself. And it's just that the vocalization, the beauty of the voice and of the sound, and allowing that to move through me and allow it to come from my ancestors and from my everything that's come before me. That is just, I've learned, and this is only more of a recent thing, and this is something I'm just starting to practice. It's just been such a beautiful unfolding of really moving into prayer and into song.
What is motivating you right now outside Zendo?
I had a baby girl 5 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So I have a daughter.
What's her name?
Her name is Talia.
Talia?
Yeah. That transition into being a father, supporting my wife into her transition as a mother, moving into the father archetype. You know, we all have a father, you know, whether we know them or we don't. And it's a big responsibility, it's a big journey, and it's a big shift for any person to move into parenthood. And it's been such a gift for me in the past year, over a year since we knew that we would be having a child, to find myself on that path and to see how I can find the new version of my best self as a father and as a parent and as a husband of a mother.
Apart from meditation, what are the three things that are helping you right now to be a father, to be a coordinator, to lead a team, and also to have time for taking care of yourself? What are these three things? I'm very curious.
So the first thing is taking care of myself, is self-care, and I had to learn that very quickly becoming a father, where my attention was all focused on how I can be best supporting my wife and my baby, and depleting myself and realizing that I need to, in order to be that best support that I can be, I need to make sure I can sleep whenever I can, and that I'm taking care of my physical needs, and that I'm moving my body, and that I'm taking time to meditate and to be in nature and to connect to my community.
It's not the other way around,
exactly.
As we always thought.
Exactly. I have to fill my cup so that I can give. So yeah, all those versions of self-care are really what allow me to do this work. Being on the medicine path myself is critical to it as well. Like, there was a point in time where I was starting to do this work, but I didn't have a container to sit in for my own medicine work. And the difference, now that I do have that container and I am doing my own medicine work, is so profound in my ability to lead a team, to coordinate an event, to carry these things, and know that they're not just mine to carry. It's done in a beautiful community, a beautiful family that we have within the Zendo Project, that we hold this work together.
Beautiful, and because it unifies. Rick Doblin in the first interview we did said, use psychedelics through your lifespan. Right?
Yep.
And the third one?
Self-care, my psychedelic work, and physical movement. Like I talked about moving energies, but I gain a lot from like lifting weights, really moving my cardiovascular system, sweating, pushing myself. There's a certain part of trying to find the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And for me, getting physically exerted, it could be like a strenuous hike or whatever, helps get my masculine in balance so that I can be in my feminine a lot when I do this work, which is necessary to be able to just hold space and allow.
Would you say it's more feminine, right?
I do.
More young.
Yeah. This organization, Zendo, was founded by women. It's always been a woman-led organization. Our executive director, Chelsea Rose, is a woman. And that is being in the beautiful feminine and in the balance. It needs to bring both of those energies. But that has been definitely part of what Zendo has always been.
I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions, and then we wrap up. So first one is, who would you put in your life mastery team? Who are the 4 big players, icons, guides you put in your life mastery team as advisors, alive or death?
My father, who has been a tremendous influence in me, in who I am, in my genetics and in my DNA, and how he walks through the world. in his integrity has been a tremendous guide for me, and that's not verbal guidance necessarily, but by example has been tremendous for me. The former director of the Zendo Project, her name is Sarah, has been a mentor of mine, is one of my dearest friends, and she's the one who gave me the opportunity to be on this path and to learn from her, and I learn from her day to day. And my wife, absolutely my wife, she is just, besides being a support, is the most true reflection that I have to allow me to figure out where I need to look to find my shadows, to find where I'm not seeing so that I can be my best self. And she's always been that for me.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
And the fourth one?
Fourth one, I would say it's more of, I don't want to say maybe an archetype, but going back to my religious upbringing, it's like all the forefathers, the rabbis, the mystics of the Jewish spiritual tradition who were finding ecstatic states and mystical states with psychedelics, without psychedelics. The work that they did and has been passed down through my lineage is, I try every day to tap into that, to find my path within the mystical tradition.
The book that you have gifted the most?
Inner Space by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan.
A podcast that you recommend?
I would say The Mythic Masculine jumps to mind.
When you think, what's been your most challenging moment?
I had Lyme disease for 2 years and hit a point where I had accepted that I would not be able to basically live life as a normal person. It completely shut me down. I was a ghost, and that 2-year period was the hardest part of my life.
The most satisfying and gratifying moment of your life?
Having a baby. I birthed my daughter.
And when you think about somebody that is successful, who is the first one that comes to your mind?
I hope this comes out the right way, myself. Because I don't want to compare myself to anybody else or judge anybody else's path as if they're successful or not successful. But I'm proud of myself. I look at myself and I say I'm doing my best, and allowing each other person to have their journey and trusting in where they are on their path.
Any quote or saying that you repeat often to yourself?
Is there any concern that moving into cannabis is going to go 3, 4, 5 in the FDA and start to exercise regulatory?
Just allow. Just allow.
And the last 2 questions is what's been your biggest takeaway so far in this conference?
How evolved the community has come since the last conference. So one of my first events with Zendo Project was Psychedelic Science 2017, and where the community is with taking care of themselves and taking care of each other, and the need for an official sanctuary and peer support space has completely changed since then. We have been busy and we have been providing support, but you can just see with it's 3 or 4 times the size as it was back in 2017, and it's just radically different. The way that people know how to engage with medicines, know how to support themselves and how to support each other.
And the biggest lesson you take from working in Zendo?
Be in community.
Where people can know more about you, Ben?
You can go to zendoproject.org for my personal information. My email address is ben@zendoproject.org. You can sign up for our newsletter on that website, find out about our trainings, our workshops, our the events that we're going and doing this work at. Our upcoming event is going to be Burning Man this year. Applications are closing in July, so not sure when this goes live, but if it's before then, please, if you're a Burning Man attendee, come apply and volunteer with us.
And what will be your headline for New York Times?
Support each other. Zendo Project loves you.
And is there anything else you want to add?
Not at this time. Just so appreciate you for having me on this, for sharing this information, for getting this out to a community, and for having me on this. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, and let's keep making arrucos.
I would love that. Blessings, brother.
Blessing, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Disrupt Everything podcast series with Isra Garcia. You can listen to the podcast on any podcast platform or on isragarcia.s/podcast, where you'll find interviews with Seth Godin, Robin Sharma, Wim Hof, Kevin Kelly, Stephen Kotler, Joseph Ahram, Great Modern Stoics, Zen Masters, Shaolin Masters, Hollywood actors, New World sages, and many other disruptors, plus solo episodes with Isra. And the journey continues.
Gracias por haber escuchado este podcast, por haberlo visualizado, por haber estado aquí, por seguir aquí, por sobresalir, por reinventarte, por liderar, por elegirte. No hay una cenicienta a las 12, estamos aquí. Espero que hayas disfrutado y que tomes acción y que en los comentarios nos digas qué te ha parecido, qué te gustaría que tratásemos, qué te gustaría encontrar, qué necesitas, cómo te podemos servir mejor. Porque esa es la misión, servir, impactar, practicar, jugar, amar y vivir. Y para eso está este podcast. Así que vamos a ello. Cuento con tu apoyo, cuento con tu like, cuento con tu suscripción. Y ojalá entres en Spotify o en Apple Podcast y dejes una reseña. El viaje continúa.